Hi.
Hello, Simon.
Hello.
So, I'm sorry about that. I was
No,
in the
no
middle
problem.
of,
Maybe we should turn the video off. Are you recording it?
yeah. It's never
Okay.
happened
So,
before,
so,
so I
all
had to
right.
have a good laugh about it because I was setting up this interview like a constellation, and I was saying like, what are the influences? As I was saying to you in the first section, like, should I be by the fire or the water or whatever? And then the next thing, the system crashed, and I was like, money and Tantra, I wonder how that is related. So
Right.
let's go. So, do you want to introduce yourself and say what your background is and how you got into Tantra and what it
Sure,
means?
sure. So my background is, I've been on my own spiritual journey since 1998, which is when I really started my practice. But actually, it kind of starts long before then because my mother was a disciple of Osho's, the spiritual teacher, and she actually was initiated by him while pregnant with me. So, so I've kind of grown up surrounded by spiritual practitioners and this kind of spiritual information coming through. And Osho is fundamentally a tantric teacher. So, his major contribution to the world is something he calls Zorba the Buddha. And when he describes Zorba the Buddha, what he says is he wants to create a new kind of spirituality. He says the Buddha was the peak of consciousness, the absolute peak, but just a little bit dry. And then he said, and then you get Zorba the Greek, who's this crazy, drinks wine, loves women, engages with life, is mining, trying to make money. He said Zorba is the absolute epitome of somebody who has a lust for and a love for life, but a little unaware. And so he said, my mission here, my whole teaching is about bringing Zorba and Buddha together. So we can have the consciousness and the awareness of the Buddha with the lust for life and the excitement and the ability to engage things as a Zorba.
Wow, that's
So
interesting.
yeah. And so that teaching really has kind of been part of my journey and informing my journey. But when I first started practice, I didn't start with Osho because that was, kind of where my lineage. So, you normally have to rebel and do something different. So I went to traditional Western Hermeticism, ritual magic, occultism, and that was kind of my entry into spiritual practice. I then did move back into reconnecting with Osho and some of the Indian teachings, Advaita and non-dual teachings. And, kind of 2000 till 2005, more deeply into my journey, I really sunk into the non-dual awareness teachings, and any kind of work I did was just purely for survival. So I would do enough work, make enough money to survive, to go on the next retreat or the next course. I think this will resonate with a lot of spiritual seekers because a lot of us, it's like, okay, save enough money to go to India or to go to the next teacher because we're chasing after enlightenment or some kind of awakening. My first deep forays into that were the kind of Ramana Maharshi non-dual Advaita tradition, kind of seeing everything as oneness. And I had an awakening in London in 2005 with a spiritual teacher called Maitreya, who I was sitting with every morning and evening. And I got into the space of non-dual consciousness. So, time stopped, thinking stopped, and I was in this pure bliss. And that kind of lasted for about 2 weeks, like no sense of self. And then I was hanging out with some friends in a squat, and one of my friends had something from South Africa, this herbal extract called Scilitium, and they gave that to me, and it's actually used by the Bushmen to enter into altered states of consciousness. But it grounded me so rapidly. I had this immense energy flowing through my body, and I kind of had to lie down for about 6 hours. I had this energy kind of flowing through me. And after that, I kind of looked up and I was like, wow, there's a me again. There's a separate self. But I still had access to that kind of space of bliss and incredibly expanded consciousness. And that was when I came back to South Africa and I started my tantric work. So I came back to South Africa, and there's a school here in now in Johannesburg and Cape Town called the Advaita Tantra School, who I connected with. And I felt this deep kind of need to connect with my sexuality, to start exploring sexual relationship work with a partner, but very consciously. So, I kind of dabbled with Tantra before then, kind of very conscious, kind of esoteric sex, I would call it, but not really gone into the true meaning of Tantra, which is really finding that where you contract, or that which you resist, and expanding in those moments of contraction or resistance. The key thing about Tantra is not a teaching about sexuality. It just so happens that most of us have huge resistance and conditioning and issues around sexuality. So if you want to find your edge really quickly, try and get naked in a room with other people, or try and have a frank and honest discussion about your sexual issues. You'll immediately start feeling all kinds of emotions and feelings and issues arising. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of an appropriate thing because, especially after having had this huge kind of psychic opening, it's like having the crown of my head open up in this awakening experience I had. It's like that's really just the start of a journey. And the rest of the journey is, kind of dealing with your karma, your past history, of what you have, your conditioning from society, your conditioning from your family, how you grew up, what your programming was. And so now you've got this awareness, but now you're trying to unravel those threads of your programming. Mm-hmm. And so my Tantra school was very focused around the sexual Tantra, and that was the place where they did work. So, my initial tantric exploration was around the sexual energy work, the contraction, opening up into the contraction. My partner was also involved in the school at that time, was also involved in the school. So, we worked together through a lot of these issues, closed relationships, sexually open relationships. So a lot of the kind of exploration of going into spaces where you normally aren't comfortable and seeing what comes up, and then staying with it and being present with it. And after a while of doing that work, it becomes a lot easier. So you start to have a lot more flow around the sexuality, a lot more freedom. Your energy gets liberated in many ways. And then, of course, what happens is you start noticing other areas of your life where you have contraction. Right. And for me personally, that was money. I was like, wow, the one thing which can freak me out as much as sexuality could, or as much as, like hardcore sexual aspects could, is money. Where do I have the most pain in my life? Where am I most uncomfortable? Where am I suffering? When I didn't have enough money. I mean, actually, my situation got so dire. I was so tuned into the awakening and the bliss and the enlightenment, I wasn't concerned about money at all. And somehow enough would pitch up, my grandmother would send me 1,000 rand for my birthday, my mom would help me out, somebody would want like a little bit of a website here, and I'd do a little bit of work there, I'd do a consultancy for a friend. I learned how to live on nothing, which I'm sure many seekers will empathize with, live on the sniff of an oil rag, like staying with friends, hardly paying any rent, eating kind of simple food here and there, and somehow managing to survive, to get by. But it got so I was living in Cape Town without a car. I was walking everywhere. I had a very cheap apartment. I'm finding money for food. Kind of had parties for friends. And people would bring food and live on that for a while. And still like a lot of bliss because still connected to the spiritual energy. So just being able to meditate for hours every day, not being into working for some soulless corporation, or not into giving up any of my free time to be controlled by anything. And it so happened that I actually gave my first I gave a course on flirting,
Really?
called the Art of Seduction. Yeah. And I finished this course, and then I was supposed to meet these guys up later, guys and girls. I was supposed to meet up with them later, and I was going to give them some tips and hints on flirting and being out and kind of letting this energy flow. And after the course, I actually fell asleep. I kind of passed out. And then I was supposed to meet them, and I was supposed to have my girlfriend's car, and she wasn't around, and we had an argument. And then I phoned some friends who were going to meet me and come in, and they cancelled. So I thought, well, it's not too far. It's about a 40-minute walk, and I'll walk into town. And so anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole story now, but I ended up getting stabbed because I walked through a dodgy area of Woodstock in South Africa. I was convinced that all was bliss and that, kind of we were all connected. And it took me about a year to learn how to walk again. I stabbed in my leg, they severed my sciatic nerve. I was in constant pain. So people talk about, after the bliss comes the crucifixion.
Right.
So, that was the case for me, where I literally sat for a year, like with my leg, and it felt like my leg was in a vat of acid because I had this nerve damage. So it was this constant pain. And none of the painkillers I took or anything that I took helped. I was stabbed a couple of other places, but those weren't really serious. It was the nerve damage, which I really had to go through. And in this time and in this pain, I was kind of sitting with it, and I was kind of really being drawn to the soulfulness. So, I feel like there's a difference between soul and spirit. Spirit is that opening, and soul is this kind of descent. And that's really what tantric work is also. Ultimately, when you get into it, it's an energy which flows downward in oneself. And when I started to connect into this downward flowing energy, I'm also like listening to reality. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning here? And actually, it was my third wake up call. I had two before then. And one, I'd done a hitchhike all the way up the coast of South Africa, and then caught a bus to Joburg and got out at Park Station. I was mugged by 4 guys who kind of grabbed me and stole my backpack and stole all my stuff, put a knife to my throat. But I kind of ignored that one. And then prior to that, I was riding a bicycle around Joburg at like midnight, and some guy didn't see me. I had a light on my bike, but he didn't see me, and he drove into me in Rosebank. So, it's like, you kind of get these wake-up calls. And the third wake-up call was fortunately big enough for me to go, okay, if I want to remain in a body and, continue in this lifetime, I need to start adjusting my viewpoint because I've got a wrong view here somewhere. And I realized that this kind of rejection of money as just purely a means of control and suffering, which it can be. But again, that's a perspective. So, when you start to go into the non-dual perspective, I realized that I hadn't expanded my non-dual perspective to encompass everything. Right. It's like, well, money's just another tool. It's just another means of energy.
So, where are you going with your money and tantra work? Where are you hoping to go with it? Because I know you're offering coaching and sessions and.
Yeah, so it's really this kind of this aspect of finding out like where is the pain, where is the contraction, and how do you open into that contraction? So is it around earning, is it around saving, is it around spending, which are some of the key areas of how money energy flows. And it's kind of looking at that and looking at yourself and how you made up. It's actually interesting, you do the constellation work. And one of my friends, I think Rusada, he and I started constellating our financial position. So we're like, like we had like little crystals and, little items. And like, okay, pick one for saving, pick one for spending, pick one for earning. And let's place them in the field and see how they relate to each other. And what's happening around them, and what are they? Like maybe your spending is this beautiful crystal, and your savings like a little thumbtack, or so you can start to you start to see what you've chosen and how it relates to each other. That was actually some of the first kind of forays. This was about 2 or 3 years back. We were working through this when I was trying to figure out the kind of dominant money energies. And it's an ongoing journey, you know. It's still, you know, I'm still working in it with myself, but I'm at the point now where I can just say to people, okay, you know, like, there's a tremendous amount of pain here, especially for seekers who've done a lot of work in other areas of their life. But there's still the money thing still isn't quite flowing, and they haven't reached a sort of peace with it. There's either an attraction or an aversion to it.
So it's interesting. I mean, I'm just reflecting on this, on, you know, the kind of dynamics of this particular session, because I've never had my computer crash on me right at the beginning of an interview. And I just wondered, you know, if you pay attention to, like in a constellation, if you pay attention to the signs, it's like, okay, well, there's the monetary crash, and there's the, you know, the system crash of around going into sexuality, I'm sure, and just all these, you know, all these things that people must be experiencing, kind of coming out of this old paradigm and into this new system, and nobody really, you know, a lot of people aren't aligned to it. They're not ready. They actually don't know, or have forgotten, essentially, you know, how to create their own reality, essentially, how to create a new reality, you know. And so, I mean, is the system crash, does it mean anything to you? Like, do you work with people in that way, or, you know, when things just have fallen apart for them, like it did for you at some point?
Yeah, I do. You know, the key thing then is, you know, to start slowly. So it was really interesting because after my stabbing, you know, I lived with my mom for a bit. And, you know, my mom has always been an incredible backstop in my life. So, you know, when the chips really are down and I need some support, she's been there, which has been amazing. And in this case, you know, like partway through my recovery, I went to go and stay with her. You know, I couldn't earn, I needed somewhere to stay. So I stayed with her for a while. And then, and she and I started doing some deep kind of healing of our own. And we were working with a facilitator. And you know, the facilitator said, well, you know, what you need to do is, you know, not just have a kind of this open-ended, you know, thing that if, you know, Simon needs help, you're going to keep helping him. You know, you need to kind of figure out what are the limits on that. So, and you know, and that was a little bit shocking for me, because I was like, well, I can't work at the moment. I'm still in pain. You know, I need some help with my medical expenses. My mom is a successful business person, so she had the financial capability to help me. So I was like, well, why can't you help me? But at the same time, you know, that wasn't empowering me, because I was remaining dependent.
Yeah.
So what we did is we agreed a 6-month period, and we agreed a certain amount of money, which reduced. And then over that, you know, at the end of 6 months, there'd be no more money. You know, and it was amazing, because I came back down to Cape Town where I lived, and, you know, I started finding some work, and at first the work was minor. You know, I was doing a bit of copy editing, I was writing a few articles, you know, I was earning like 3,000 or 4,000 rand a month. But then between you know, that and the money I was getting, the support I was getting from my mother, you know, I managed to make ends meet. And, you know, and as the support she was giving me declined, you know, my earnings picked up. And I was able to support myself and take care of myself. And then I went into a period of doing consulting work. And I went back to what I knew from the past, which was internet work and internet consulting. And, you know, that was also a thing, because I kind of thought to myself, oh, now I'm in this new spiritual phase, and I'm going to support people spiritually. But, you know, like, I think a lot of people who engage on a spiritual path, they do that very prematurely. You know, and I keep saying to people, you know, how did you used to make money? Let's look at all the ways in your life that you made money before, and let's tap into some of those. You don't have to do them in exactly the same way as you used to do them, but there was something about that the world wanted and needed, and that was valued by reality, and it rewarded you for that. So look into that and build a bridge between what you've always done and, you know, kind of what you see yourself doing. And just be okay to take your time, you know, to let things build gradually. And that's, you know, and I work with a lot of people who crash. You know, a lot of people, or a lot of people who are still in that space of, they haven't even crashed yet. And I say to them, don't let it get as bad as it happened to me, Just, like start engaging it now before you have to get 3 huge smacks from reality to wake up.
So, how do people find you, and how do they get to your work?
At the moment, it's purely through word of mouth, and it's through people who've met me. I'm running 3 businesses myself. So, I'm practicing what I preach and what I'm talking about. And one business is a web video business, which is very much my background with the internet. I've got another business which is around energetic medicines. And I've got another business for connecting spiritual teachers with people, which is an online business. So they kind of run the range of, what I used to do to where I'm going. And I don't have a lot of time. So, literally, if somebody's heard about me and they want support and they want some sessions, I'm happy to work with people in that way. But I'm not really marketing or putting myself out there to do that right now because, I don't need it. And I've got quite a lot on my plate. So, if somebody manages to find me, great, I can help them.
Okay, so if someone decides to want to get hold of you, do you want to say your details or?
Yeah, sure. You can. I have a website which is Simon Tzu. That's Simon Tzu. So that's. I changed my name many years ago as part of my spiritual journey. I also use my given name, Simon Anderson, which is the name I use in most everyday life. But there are about, I think, 25,000 Simon Andersons on Google. It's a pretty common name. So Simon Tzu is a good way to find me. You can find me on Facebook as Simon Tzu. I have a website, simontzu.wordpress.com. I'm Simon Tzu on Twitter. So yeah, it's pretty easy to find me and ping me, and we can set something up. I'm also experimenting with something called Live Ninja, which is it allows us to do kind of video sessions. And I'm liveninja.com/Simon Tzu. So you can also find me there.
Great. Well, I'm a big fan, so I'm looking forward to having, Money and Tantra session on Live Ninja and try it out and see how it goes.
Cool.
And
Cool.
I just want to support you and say I'm glad that you're part of my spiritual network, and we've got all these birds that seem to be participating as well. They're also excited. So, yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. Let's wrap it up there, and we can always open up and have another session and have another chat about some other area. But it's a nice introduction to your work, and that's a good place to start.
What kind of birds are they?
I can show you around the Michaelisburg a little bit.
Yeah, show me the birds.
We've got 2 eagle owls in the tree, and we've got these birds that get very upset when the eagle owls are in the tree. And then we've got so I don't know, they seem to be wanting to be a part of this session somehow. So I'll show you them in the tree quickly. I'll see if I can find them. The owls are probably also there. Let's see. Did you see that? There were 2 owls in the tree, and that's why they're making such a big sound.
Right.
So it's amazing.
I didn't quite get it. It was a little blurred, but I think that the webcams aren't really designed for distance. But it was nice to hear that.
I know. They're very busy. They're very participatory. And we've also got a cat here on the seat. Look here, can you see?
Okay. Yes, I can. Was that when you got up?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got all the participants.
Okay, great.
Anyway, lovely to chat to you, Simon.
I'll chat. Great chatting.
And we'll chat again. Bye.
All right.